State leaders pushing for progress when it comes to school bus safety. Governor Mike DeWine announcing the members of a new school bus safety program working group to identify issues in school transportation.
The decision comes just days after an 11-year-old Clark County boy was killed in a tragic school bus crash. Now, Gwyneth Falloon sat down with the governor for an exclusive one-on-one this afternoon. Gwen, what exactly did he tell you about this newly formed group?
Well, Elise, he tells me that this team, it's currently made up of 14 members. That includes Governor DeWine, as well as bus mechanics, parents, law enforcement, other members. Over the next few months, the group is going to listen to concerns, take a look at the research as well as past crashes, and weigh the highly debated topic of seatbelts on school buses.
And what's really important is what we do.
It has been 8 days since 11-year-old Aiden Clark was killed in a school bus crash. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine announcing Wednesday he is putting together the school bus safety working group.
Statistically, it's a very safe form of transportation. That doesn't mean that they can't be safer. And there's some real questions that I think need to be looked at. That's why I put this group together.
But last Tuesday's tragedy is forcing many to question just how safe buses are. Do you think our buses right now are as safe as they could be?
I don't know. I don't know if our buses are as safe as they can be, and that's really one of the questions for this group to look at.
The group of 14 is made up of school administrators, law enforcement agencies, and bus mechanics like Robert Widener.
We've got good seats built into them already. We've got good construction standards already in place. I'm sure we can improve on something.
One of those improvements being highly considered, seatbelts.
I think it's time to have that conversation, and the governor's made it clear we're going to have that conversation.
Would you say seatbelts are going to become a serious part of the discussion in Ohio?
I think seatbelts certainly will be discussed.
Over the next few months, the group will hold public hearings and address all aspects of school transportation.
Our biggest challenge with school transportation is literally finding school bus drivers. They are the first person to see our kids in the morning. They are the last person in the afternoon.
All with the same goal in mind.
Our goal, we all should have the same goal, and that is to make that ride as safe as we can.
Now the governor, he tells me he hopes to have an initial report by December. So again, over the next few months, the team is going to be holding public hearings, digging into the research and determining what options are available. We'll keep you up to date once those hearing dates are announced. Back to you.
All right, Gwen, thank you very much. A developing situation out of Sydney tonight. A North Carolina man has now been charged with murder after a man was found dead in the parking lot of Angstrom Fiber early this morning. Now, Sydney police say they found 32-year-old Brandon Welsh, who died from an apparent gunshot wound. So 48-year-old LaShawn Hughes is now in the Shelby County Jail. An initial investigation calling this a road rage incident.
And take a look at this video here behind me. A viewer shared this with us on Facebook tonight. Everything inside of this Bell Fountain Avenue home destroyed. This is what the scene looked like as our crews arrived. According to Dayton firefighters, they got a call around 7:30. Luckily, no one was home at the time. The flames, though, were so big they damaged the neighbor's house. The cause is under investigation. A Preble County woman sentenced to prison after being found guilty of animal cruelty, stalking, identity fraud, and harassment charges. Kayla Brown was initially charged after being accused of abandoning a puppy in a crate at an intersection in Preble County last year. That was on December 27th, when it was just 25 degrees outside. Now, following an investigation, she was arrested in January. Brown will now serve over 4 years in prison for those charges.
This Beaver Creek couple was convicted today on multiple counts of endangering children. Evidence during the trial showed Shanavian and John Cantrell repeatedly struck a minor, caused serious harm. Both adults were arrested back in 2021 after police observed the child's injuries and conducted an investigation. Now, the court revoked the couple's bond after the jury verdict. Sentencing date will be set at a later point.
Community members calling for change at the Montgomery County Jail tonight. This after a 7th inmate died this year alone. Lydia Bice is live outside the jail tonight. Lydia, what can you tell us about this latest death?
Yeah, Elise, last month, the 7th inmate of 2023 passed away at this jail. Now, that's more than in any other county in Ohio, and it's more than the last 2 years combined. So the Montgomery County Jail Coalition held a meeting last night to discuss these jail deaths, and this coalition works to reduce the jail population. Now, today I spoke with the chairman for the coalition, who tells me that his organization realizes that there's people across the community that are struggling with both mental health and substance use, but that they cannot receive the resources that they need here at the Montgomery County Jail.
Everyone's aware that anybody going through an episode of a certain kind, some kind of crisis, to be confined is only to worsen and exacerbate that crisis.
Now, the organization believes that the alternatives to incarceration can help avoid deaths within the county jail. Now, I also heard from the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners on how they are handling this crisis and what future steps they're planning to take. Now, if you head to the web version of this story on Dayton247now.com, you can read their responses as well. Back to you.
Lydia, thank you. This is a live look from Gainesville, Florida, as even though tropical storm now, Idalia, has passed, officials are still searching hard-hit areas of Florida in the aftermath of it. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida says there is significant damage throughout the Big Bend region. He notes there has not been any confirmed deaths due to the storm, but Florida law enforcement is still looking into one unconfirmed death involving a traffic accident. Now, officials say the initial search of impacted areas has been 75% completed.
Fortunately, the search and rescue operations, the hasty searches in the really impacted areas, it's been different than what they were finding with Hurricane Ian, and that's obviously welcome news.
Water levels are now starting to recede in the Tampa Bay area. Officials there have lifted their emergency orders, and evacuated residents are starting to go back home. Upwards of 7 feet of water was pushed into the parts of Tampa City and the surrounding coastal communities. The city's mayor says there have been no reports of major damages or injuries. She says the city will now help out the more hard-hit areas.
We'll be sending our first responders out to assist in any way that we can, as we have with every other storm that's hit, not only in the state of Florida, but really in the southeast. And if we had taken a direct hit, there's no doubt that the first responders across the state would have been here to help us in our time of need.
Now, the storm made landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast as a Category 3 hurricane. It's now again been downgraded to a tropical storm as it moves over southeastern Georgia.
And take a look at some of the flooding left in the wake of Idalia. This is the scene in a Gulf Coast community in Florida's Big Bend. That's where Idalia made landfall early this morning, bringing that wind, rain, and life-threatening storm surge. The storm caused the Suwannee River to flow backwards, submerging homes and even destroying boats and boathouses.
President Biden says Idalia is another consequence of human-caused climate change.
I don't think anybody can deny the impact of the climate crisis anymore. Just look around. Historic floods, historic floods, more intense droughts, extreme heat, significant wildfires have caused significant damage like we've never seen before, not only throughout the Hawaiian Islands in the United States, but in Canada and other parts of the world.
The president says he's being regularly briefed on the hurricane's path as it went through Florida and nearby states. His administration has mobilized more than 1,500 federal personnel, more than 540 search and rescue team personnel on the ground. He's in regular contact with state officials, saying he let every governor know he's ready to mobilize support for whatever they need.
And local crews down south waiting to hear where they will be needed as Idalia continues to move inland tonight. Abby Forbes has the latest after speaking with Ohio Task Force 1's team in Georgia.
47 Ohio Task Force 1 members and 2 canines arrived in Atlanta late afternoon Tuesday to help prepare for Hurricane Idalia. Since their arrival, they have been preparing for what is to come as Idalia moves through. They are unpacking equipment and doing some final trainings. Task Force leader Jim O'Connor explained that they have been refamiliarizing themselves with the technology and equipment while they wait to see where they will be needed.
Our boats are packed for travel, and so some of the things have to be tucked away. We're moving them out to accessible locations, double checking all of our motors, running them. They are maintained on a regular basis, but once I get here, I want to get my hands on it if it's going to be the motor I'm using.
I am told as they prepare, they are on standby to help the local authorities as soon as they need it. And as the storm progresses, we will continue to keep you updated on air and online. Back to you.
And of course, as Abby mentioned, we will continue to update you on air and on our website at Dayton247now.com. Right now, you can head there and see stories just like this one on our homepage.
So let's get a current update on the now tropical storm's path here. Tim's in for Natalie tonight. Where are we at now?
Fresh off the press 9 minutes ago, 5 more miles per hour down, 60 miles per hour, and right inland. So she's about to slide off the coast of South Carolina. Again, probably going to be somewhere right in here near Myrtle Beach area. Still tropical storm warnings all the way up into the outer banks of North Carolina with this. They'll continue to see some heavy rain and gusty winds through the evenings, but you can see where she made landfall this morning around 7:45. Again, category 3, very quickly moving at 21 miles per hour to the northeast. So this thing is booking it out of here. She's ready to get back over water. Now, when she gets over water, expected to stay right around 60 miles per hour, kind of lingering for a few days, and then she'll get picked up by a trough and then tossed out into the Atlantic where she will be no more.
Tim, thank you. A historic mansion in the city of Dayton has now been torn down after a fire on Sunday. The Traxler mansion caught fire for a second time just after midnight Sunday. Now, that first fire was earlier this year, back in April. An unsafe building order was issued on Monday. It was then demolished yesterday. The property was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1979 and again in 1984 as part of the Dayton View Historic District.
And tonight we're getting a good look at some body camera video from a 3-alarm fire at the Super 8 Motel in Vandalia over the weekend. So let's take a closer look at this video. You can see here those flames taking over the building. A section of the roof over the drive-through area and pool collapsed shortly after crews arrived. More than a dozen motel guests were quickly evacuated. A child was hurt but was not related to any burns from the fire, but is expected to be okay. Now, the motel had just reopened 4 days prior to that fire after violating city fire codes. The cause is under investigation.
Today marks 1 year since the now retired Columbus police officer shot and killed 20-year-old Donovan Lewis. Isabel Hanson talked with the Lewis family tonight at a vigil.
Donovan should be here. That's the message from his friends and family 1 year after his death. They're gathered outside the State House in Columbus to remember Donovan Lewis. On August 30th last year, a now former Columbus police officer shot and killed Lewis. He was 20 years old when he died. Ricky Anderson now faces murder and reckless homicide charges. Both Anderson and the Lewis family's lawyers say there's not a date set yet for the criminal trial. The family's lawyer tells me the civil trial is set for September 2024. Lewis's family members say they will continue to fight for justice. Reporting in Columbus, I'm Isabel Hanson.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell freezing up again in front of the media today. Why some are concerned about his health and how President Biden is responding.
And we're going to talk about how long you can expect this fall-like weather to stick around. Here's a look at your Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Take a look at this, a live look at the moon tonight. It is a rare blue supermoon up in the sky tonight. A blue moon is the second full moon in a month. A supermoon is when the full moon is nearest to Earth in its lunar cycle, making it appear bigger and brighter than regular full moons. Now, the next visible one may not be for another decade.
Alrighty, now currently dew points across the area, very crisp, very cool out there. So lower dew points means that very fall-like air feels kind of dry, I guess you could say. So 53 right now in Dayton, Xenia, Springboro, as well as out in Eaton. 52 you can see out towards Wapakoneta and Urbana. So going to be a very chilly night, and with these lower dew points as well, it is going to be quite crisp in the morning. I think some parts of Michigan are even possibly going to see a little bit of, what's it called? Frost. Not frost. All right, muggy meter for the foreseeable next couple of days. You can see very low dew points, comfortable conditions, and then as we head into the weekend, those temperatures skyrocketing. We're going to see temperatures jump into the upper 80s, close to 90 degrees by Sunday. Now you add that with some 65 degrees, 70 degree dew points, you have got some very muggy days ahead.
Well, downtown Dayton tonight lit up in red in honor of a local businessman and philanthropist, Clay Mattil, who died over the weekend. Now, Mattil was the owner and CEO of the Imes Food Company. He gave back to small business owners through his nonprofit, Aileron. Mattil passed at his home near Dayton with family. He was 82 years old. For the second time in about a month, Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell freezes for several seconds in front of news cameras. It first happened just last month on Capitol Hill during a news conference with other Republicans. Reporter Christian Hauser breaks down how it happened again this afternoon at an event in northern Kentucky.
Well, tomorrow afternoon is expected to be the busiest period on the road this Labor Day holiday weekend. AAA predicting higher traffic both Thursday and Friday, but that 2 to 6 p.m. chunk could be especially rough. Experts say the best time to hit the road early in the morning or in the evening. Sunday expected to have the least congestion.
And now let's take a live look at gas prices across the state of Ohio tonight. Right now, we're sitting at an average of $3.61 a gallon. These could get even higher, though, due to the impact from Hurricane Idalia. Experts say Idalia's impact could take gasoline refinery facilities offline and may limit some Gulf oil production and supplies. Plus, demand for gas is expected to surge as residents of the area impacted, of course, are evacuating. Many drivers in other parts of the country are also filling up their vehicles ahead of the holiday weekend, pushing for demand for gas even higher. Analysts say these price spikes could last throughout the fall and even winter months.
Well, on a happier note, Week 3 Thursday Night Lights is almost here. We preview this week's matchup between the Butler Aviators and the Troy Trojans next.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeff Schmidt Auto Group.
Good evening, I'm Matt Digby with a look at sports. Thursday Night Lights is back and we'll be in the Miami Valley League. Unbeaten Troy with its home opener for 2023 as they host Butler. We'll preview both teams starting with the Aviators. They're 1-1 following a Week 1 home loss to Northmont, but they rebounded last week by winning at Piqua. The Aviators are in the first year of a new head coach, Zach Geeth, but the players say they've developed a strong relationship with Geeth in charge, and they're taking the lessons from their games against Northmont and Piqua. Butler players say they're excited to enter this game coming off of a win, but their focus is now on Thursday against the Trojans.
It's important that we started it off 1-1. We obviously wanted to be 2-0, but the job's not finished, so we have a whole season ahead of us. Hoping to carry this momentum, keep going forward.
We just got to go from week to week, focusing on who our opponent is and giving them our best shot that we have, and then next week focusing on the other opponent.
We've been more locked in on the offensive line. I feel like we've really stepped together as one, as opposed to last year. I feel we had a few holes that we were missing, maybe mentally and physically, but I feel like this year we're a lot better.
Well, Troy also won their MVL opener last week at Greenville. In fact, this is their home opener, and in their first 2 games at Dunbar and Greenville, they scored a combined 111 points. The players say one reason why they've started in this fashion is the motivation from last year. The Trojans won 7-3 in 2022 and hosted the first-round playoff game, but their season ended in that first-round game. One other factor is how long the Troy players have been teammates going back several years.
I think we're doing a good job playing as a team, and we trust each other. We're a senior-heavy team, so we've been playing with each other since 7th grade, is when we came together. So I think we have a lot of experience with each other.
Our defense performed really well, even with losses of a couple guys along the way. Young guys stepped up, backup stepped up. I feel like they just kind of came together in a way that we were really happy with. Just seeing how we can compete against a good team like them, seeing how they can compete against a good team like us, and just seeing how we're going to match up as the season goes along.
And you'll hear from both head coaches on Thursday night right before the game. Big news, meanwhile, for the Cincinnati Bengals, and it is happy news. Joe Burrow back to practice more than a month after picking up a calf strain. The fourth-year quarterback did throw the football around before the preseason game with the Packers 3 weeks ago. That was the last time anyone saw him throw the football publicly. Also of note, he was not wearing the sleeve on his right leg, as he had often since the injury. This comes after Jake Browning was confirmed as Cincinnati's backup quarterback following the cut to a 53-man roster. And the Bengals have signed a third quarterback, Will Grier, on the practice squad. Grier played college ball at Florida and West Virginia and has been on the squads with both the Panthers and the Cowboys.